Hey folks, Ken here. How you doing? Let me just shut off some of these things here that are making a lot of noise. It's mostly the pumps or the air pumps. Um, yeah, quick update. So what I've been doing over the last couple of weeks is, as you can see, they're insulating a lot of my pipe work. The reason is that I'm now heating. So I've had to insulate any of the pipes that the heated water goes through, because this room, as you can probably see, it's bare walls, it's not insulated. I probably should have, it's a bit late now. Um, but I need to stop heat loss during the depths of the winter. How much I'm going to heat or how I'm going to heat, what I'm going to heat to, I don't know. I shall see how that goes. So just again, um, I have the heater, which is on the other side of that wall, on my trickle tower circuit. So I've had to insulate the pipes that come out of the filter and back into my two returns on the pond. And I've also have to insulate the pipes that go up into the trickle tower and in and out to the heater. I didn't do around the bends. I think the pipe work is probably thick enough there. I've done the vast majority of, you can see. I think it's just a bit messy. I got the insulation, by the way, after looking around a lot. Um, 50 mil or 2 inch or 2.5 inch, whatever it is in metric, is not easy to get. I did get it on Temu, which is not bad. I took off the silver stuff because you're supposed to put it around and then put the silver on, but the silver foil, it will get damaged, it would look crap. There's no need for it, especially indoors, I think. So as you can see, I just put it around and secured it with cable ties. It was an absolute bugger to get around some of the pipes against the wall because there's very little room for maneuver there, but I did get it on. I didn't do the valves and things because I need to get at them. As I say, I didn't do the elbows, but everything's a bit thicker there. I need to come up with something for the trickle tower. As I mentioned, I'll probably get a lagging jacket for a hot water cylinder. Seems to be the cheapest and easiest way to do it. You can only get them in red though, which is not ideal. Black would be better, but anyway, needs must and all that. I'm not going to be standing here. There's a bit of the thicker pipe here. I got a roll of stuff in screw fix that does the job, and I did the outside pipes with it as well. That little box there is the Wi-Fi controller that I added for the heat pump. If you can see it there, I can't see what you see at the minute. So it just allows me to control the heat pump and see how often it's coming on. And the dogs have found something. What is it? Jeez, bag that was dropped. Right, so along at the heater, I have insulated. So at the bottom, I just used a bit, not the neatest looking job, because it's a straight bit of pipe. I just used a bit of the insulation that I got on Temu, and here I use this roll. So it's just bubble wrap with what do you call it? As you can see there, it's bubble wrap with foil on it. It's not very thick, but you can double it up, and it does the job. I need to do the outlet from the skimmer as well, just cover it a bit, and that don't need to do that. That's a drain, so that's the in and out for the heater. You know, just to stop wind chill. It's not going to get a huge amount of wind back there. The skimmer itself, I won't do anything with, probably just the pipe from it. I do turn this off. I've two goldfish in there that I've been treating with what do you call it, Learnex Pro, because I can't. I'm treating the main pond, and I'll talk about that in a second, with Fluke X. You cannot use Fluke X, I'm very reliably told from several sources, with goldfish or anything other than koi, or you likely kill them. You can see the lilies are still doing something. So the unheated back, which is kind of almost completely above ground, but it is insulated, is 16 degrees. The heated bottom is 20 degrees, holding at 20 degrees. So that's doing okay. Still getting a few. They are dying back. You can see the lilies. I took a fair few dead leaves out yesterday, but there's still a couple of flowers there. But what I will likely do is I'll give this another probably week or two, and I will then cut back the lilies, reintroduce the two goldfish back into the main pond. And what I'm going to do as well, and I'll go over to them in a second, is put the covers on. So the main pond, what I've done is, I'm almost certain, looking at the scrapes that I did, that they are gill fluke. So that explains why I'm treating. Seem to rid myself of the problem, and then only within a few weeks it's back again, or at least a couple of months in this time. The thing is with gill fluke, I find they're much smaller than skin fluke. They're harder to find. So, you know, you treat, and the previous treatment I did was 3 treatments of Lernex Pro. So I did 1 full dose on day 1 and 2 half doses, 1 on day 2 and 1 on day 3, and that seemed to sort the problem for the guts of 6 weeks. Then the fish start flashing again. I started scraping, I couldn't find anything, and then eventually I find fluke. So fish look good. They're now, because it's gill fluke, what I've sort of decided to do is treat 1 week with a full dose, or 110% I went with, just to allow for the trickle in, and the drum. And a week later did another full dose, and then yesterday I put in what was left. It was probably a 2/3 dose, but hopefully that gets the gill fluke. The difference with gill fluke is they're egg layers, and the fluke treatment only gets them when they're hatched. So you need to sort of work with the cycle. So they say it's sort of every 5 to 7 days or so. So putting in those 2 additional treatments of Fluke X, I hope has got it. I'm also on the 3rd treatment of Lernex. I'm probably go, and the fish, you can't see the goldfish, but I did see them. They're still in there and they're still doing fine. There is no filtration in there, although they're probably getting a bit from the plants, and I'm not feeding. So there is a pump in there, a pump from my old pond. It's an old Pond Tech pump, but it's just has the spout pointing up, and it's just creating a bit of aeration. But the fishies, believe me, are in there, and they seem to be fine. They're goldfish, they'll be grand. So hopefully that does it. What I will likely do is put in a half dose and a half dose again of Lernex, just to be sure. The last thing I want to do is not to treat it fully on the goldfish and have them reintroduce it back into the pond. But anyway, such is life. So heater's working fine. I don't have a kilowatt meter on it totally dedicated. What I do have, I have an app from my electric company, and I've just been looking. I reckon on average it's about €2 a day more, so that's around €60. Now that was treating up to 24 degrees. I'm uncovered at the moment, as you saw, for the first 2 weeks, and then I dropped it down to 20. I find the heat pumps coming on about 3 times a day for 3 hours, so it runs for about 8 to 9 hours. It seems to run at about 54% according to the app, which I reckon is about 1.5 kilowatts. A lot of that, as you can imagine, is during the night. I'm on a smart meter, so I got a reduced tariff overnight. So the pool, obviously, or the pond, obviously naturally cools overnight when the temperature drops, and it generally tends to come on more so at night for the cheaper rates. So that's what, €60 a month, not too bad. I hope when I get the covers on, and I'd say I'll just get the treatment over me with the Fluke X for the next couple of weeks, and I'll maybe drop it down to 80 and 60. And the plan is maybe to hold it at maybe 50 and see how I go. and then maintain it at 12. Um, and if it gets unmanageable, it really is very mild still at the moment. We're hitting sort of 16, 18 degrees during the day, and okay, it's 10, 12 degrees at night, but it's going to get a lot colder than that, obviously, especially after Christmas. So we'll see how it goes, but the covers should definitely help. And I think I mentioned this thing I got last week. It's a power outage alert. I got it from Coastal Koi, a bit of ancient tech, but it does work. You just stick a GMS SIM in it, and as soon as the power goes, I get a text to say it's gone. So it is useful. I'll always have somebody not too far away that can help sort that out. Other than that, in here, the Cactoli breaks my heart. The the pH, it's 7.8, it's 8.2, it's up and down, up and down. Don't trust it at all. It's probably in or about. I think my pH is around 7.8. Temperature is definitely in the ballpark. It's around 20 there. TDS, don't really trust. It's a bit high. ORP, don't trust. Read a bit about ORP, and general consensus of opinion is that ORP meters are crap if they're cheap. You really need to invest a couple of €100 to get one that is in any way accurate and keep it calibrated every few weeks. I'm not that big into Tarzan has found a plastic cheese bag and he's walking away looking very guilty. But anyway, you just have to avert your eyes here a bit if you're of a nervous disposition. Everything that is sort of half used in the garden goes behind the shed. As you can see, there's lots of bits of wood and a water butt and everything else, but these are my covers, and I'm lucky in that I do have somewhere handy to store them. I know a fair few people have said, oh, I'd love to have covers, but the problem is, where do I put them in the summer? And I do put mine here. To be honest with you, they take more of a battering here during the summer with the changes in temperature and the dampness and everything else than they do on the pond itself. But it is treated wood. I made these the year after I built the pond, so they're about 4 years old now. They're just, I don't know what that wood is, a 3x2 I think it is, and the wood itself was cheap enough, but it's the polycarbonate that's the killer. I think I priced them up. I made them myself, but it cost me about €800 in total to make these. So on the front piece, I have 16 mil polycarbonate. On the back piece, I have 10 mil. The back, I turn off, as you know, I've said many times, I turn off the waterfall and don't use the back during the winter. So the real reason for this in the back is just to keep the crap, the leaves and stuff out of it. It's not heated, the bottom is. I've also got on them, you can see here, stainless steel brackets, just to give them an extra bit of strength, that I got on I think it was either Amazon or eBay, one of them. And then I got these little things here, you can see, I don't know if you can see, yeah, there. They were just little feet to keep the wood off the copings, just to stop water gathering on them. They worked well for about a year, and then the ends came off and they started scraping and the screws came through. So I did get new rubber feet. I'm going to replace them. So generally what I do now, and my trusty wife, she'll help me when she's home shortly, is just lift them out and get the power washer out. You can see all the cobwebs and stuff on them, and give them a good clean. So this, I know, looking at it, is the back one, and you can see the gap in the middle just slips in under the waterfall, which, as I say, doesn't run anyway. This is the middle one, and then this piece of polycarbonate on this one is for the front piece, and that goes up against the window just to seal it there. So it should give me a reasonable amount of insulation during the winter. The polycarbonate, a lot of people like it, is expensive. You know, I'd say out of these, the €800, 600 minimum, if not more. You know, wood itself, it's not as cheap as it used to be, but it is. It's not that expensive either. It's the polycarbonate that's the killer. It really is. I know people who in recent times have priced them up. I was just looking at that piece of wood there. I do have, it's too short, I'm sure it is. I do have one of these beams going across. I think it's on the middle one that has sagged down a bit. And now I could just screw it out easy enough and replace it. But it's getting a piece of wood that length. I used to drive an estate car that unfortunately died on me last year, and I now drive a saloon. So my ability to transport what would it be, a near enough 3 meter piece of wood is limited, and you know, you'd end up paying delivery, which would cost a lot more than the piece of wood. But yeah, I look at that. It's maybe not one for this year. It just sagged. It not hugely, not as though it's going to crack. So there, the covers. I'm going to get them out. I'm probably a week or two early, getting the covers on. But I think with the heat, I just do what I decided. You know, it will pass the waterfall. This, by the way, is a mess. This cobble lock sank away when I was building the ponds. I got a guy out to dig the foundation for me, and I drove a little 1 ton dumper, and I was bringing the dumper in. Now there was a big sheet of hardboard there, but it wasn't hard enough, and I need to get that fixed. I need to get this done as well on the cobble lock. You know what, guys? You can see all the grass. If anyone's any tips for cobble lock, let me know. But my heart is broken spraying it, and I don't know, it's weed killer. It's not as good as it used to be, and that's probably for a good reason, I know. But I found with weed killer, I spray it. It kills them. Weed all, I think I used. It kills the weeds in about 24 hours, and within a week they're growing again. You know, you can see here all around there, all those weeds had withered away, and while it withers them away, it doesn't actually kill the feckers. Anyway, driving me nuts, and it doesn't look great either. But in terms of the fishies, they're looking good, as I say. Plenty of growth on them. In terms of feeding, I'm still feeding 4 times a day. I'm not up, you know, I'm treating. So I know a lot of people say, oh, don't feed when you're treating. It depends on the fish. They're looking for it, you know, they're very active, they're in good form. It's a bit of fluke. It's not the end of the world. Fluke, you know, I'm feeding a small amount twice a day. I'm not going to starve them. You know, if your fish are clamping down the bottom and they're really suffering or whatever's going on and you're treating, then I wouldn't feed them. But when they're active and, you know, otherwise looking good, then I would treat them. So that's it. Not much fun doing installation, but it's a necessary evil. As I say, have most of the pipes done. I also, the holes that I put in the wall, I have a bit of spray expanding foam I'm going to put in there as well, and just fill them out a bit. And I'll do something with that trickle tower. Other than that, that's it. If you have any comments, let me know. I might just tack a bit on the end of this when I get the covers on and give them a clean. But otherwise, I will talk to you again. Cheers. Hey folks, just a quick addendum to the video. As you can see, the covers are on. Just in terms of how they're made, just showing you again. So I made them, nothing particularly fancy. You can see there, I think that's 3x2, I'm fairly sure. And I just basically screwed them together there, fairly long, I'd say about 600 or 60 mil stainless steel screws. You probably get away with galvanized here because they're not really in the pond. So what I did was I measured out the bottom section that I wanted covered, and I divided it in three, and then I ordered the three pieces of polycarbonate, and I basically made the frames to that size. And what I did was, on the back part of the pond, I used that as my kind of workbench, because it was big enough, and basically just started measuring, cutting wood, screwing together, and it worked out fairly well. In fact, I originally went with just two lats across, and then when I put them in place, I realized they were sagging a bit, so I added a third lat in the middle. And they're doing fine. You can see this one at the back. It's actually not that bad when I look at it. Just this end of it, it has bowed slightly down, and you know, it's fine, to be honest. I'll maybe have to do something with it. It's probably not the biggest job to screw out the piece of wood and replace it. It's making sure I get a straight piece, because you look at lengths of this wood, to be honest, in shops, and it's not that straight, and you do kind of need it fairly straight for this job. You can see underneath as well where I have a piece of polycarbonate that goes up against the window, just to seal that. It's not totally air sealed, but it's better than having it open. You know, the covers for me, it does two jobs. It helps stabilize the temperature whether you're heated or not, and it keeps a lot of the crap off the pond. You know, during the winter there's an awful lot of leaves. Now it doesn't keep it all out, but it does keep a fair bit of it out. Now a net would do the same, but I find when I had the pond unheated, now every winter is different. For the first year, the temperature went down to about 3 degrees. We got a quite cold snap. Since then, the lowest I've got is about 7 degrees with the covers, so it does help, definitely. And with the heating, I found even last night, the heater came on for about 2.5 hours, and it hasn't come on since. Now there was a bit of sun today, which obviously helps, especially with the covers. But it, if I get the heat that I can manage most days with once a day, I think, you know, I could keep it on right through the winter. Because the heat, once it comes on, it tends to run for 2.5 to 3 hours, and that heater, it runs at about 1.5 kilowatts. From what I can see, it runs at 50%, and it's rated, I think, at just over 3 kilowatts on full blast. So it is, you know, it's working out at the moment at around €60 a month, which for me is okay. Not everybody would tolerate that, but for me it's okay. And if I can keep it in or about that, that's fine. What I did as well was, I did the feet on this. I don't know whether you can see them there. You can just, feet for these. I did have little sort of, they weren't really feet. I can't remember where I got them. I think probably screw fixed, but they were like mirror covers. You could screw a screw in, and there was a plastic surround and then a cap clipped on it, but they didn't last. A lot of them worn, and when I moved the covers, I could hear screws scraping against the copings. Now it didn't mark them, but it's not ideal. So I got 4 boxes of these things for about €4 each on Amazon. Do the job fine. They're rubber based. They will wear over time, but I got 4 years out of the last ones. So the covers are there for the first year. As I said, I didn't cover it, and it was a bit this time 4 years ago. I built the covers, and they're on the ponds. This is the 4th season now, and they're still in good shape. You know, the wood, it is treated wood. These covers, they weren't great. Most of the caps are gone again. I think they're galvanized screws, but it doesn't matter up here. You can see there's a rubber cap. The rubber cap either doesn't stay closed or disappeared. There's probably a better solution, but you know, to be honest, guys, they're covers on a pond for the winter. Other than that, I do have for the back, where it's open there at the waterfall, I do have a little parts of polycarbonate I screw in just to seal that up, but I won't for the minute, because there's a couple of goldfish, as I mentioned earlier, in there. I did treat them again last night, just with a half dose of Learnix Pro, and I'll do the same. And Oh, you don't know what I did to fill in that hole and sow grass in it, and there's a dog going to get a kick up its arse fairly shortly. Bit soul destroying, but hence disadvantage of having a dog. I think he's on his way to Australia or somewhere. Um, but yeah, I will do that. I'll give another treatment today, a half dose of Lernex Pro, just to make sure. I also, I don't know if I said that earlier, I did put a bit of insulation around here, and I put insulation around here. It's not the easy, it's grand. The wire as well for the remote control sensor, Wi-Fi sensor is in there. I also stuck a bit of foam around here to seal up the holes, and I'm pretty much, I think, now getting winter ready. The only thing is, I'd say, is the trickle tower. I need to come up with something like that, and it's likely a lagging jacket is the most obvious and the easiest, something I can put on for the winter and take it off during the summer. You know, it is fairly solid plastic as it is, you know, it's even the lid, but still, you know, there is going to be heated water in it, relatively speaking, and it does get very cold in this room. It's not insulated. The floor and the ceiling, I think, is, but the walls aren't, so it does, you know, drop down here fairly significantly. I mean, the other thing, as I've seen people do, is, you know, the filter is a big obvious one, is insulating that. You know, you're sort of getting into, if it was outdoors and there was wind chill, maybe there isn't in here, although it will get cool. I could get the likes of Kingspan sheet, maybe a 10mm sheet, and cut it into shape, and again, just for the winter, put it around it. Bit of a pain, but I'll see how it goes. You know, you're probably talking about making a very minor, if any, change to the temperature. But as I say, if I get away with using the heater once a day, you know, what I'll do is in the next week or so, I'll take it down to 18, 16, and then as it gets cooler, down as low as 12, and see how I got on at that level in the depths of winter. But I should leave it at that. Comments always welcome. Talk to you again. Cheers.